Stop everything and do not scroll past this moment, because what you are about to hear is not just a decision. It is the exact second everything changed between Dylan Wang and Shen Yue, and if you stay with this until the very end, you're going to understand why their choice to walk away from drama and choose a peaceful marriage shocked everyone who thought they knew their story. It did not happen in front of flashing lights. It did not happen during an interview. It did not happen in a way that demanded attention. And that is exactly why it became impossible to ignore. The room was quiet, not silent, but calm in a way that made every word feel heavier, every movement slower, every glance more meaningful. There were no cameras capturing every angle, no reporters waiting to turn every sentence into headlines. Just a space where nothing needed to be performed. Dylan Wang sat across from Shen Yue, not as someone trying to prove something, not as someone trying to explain something, but as someone ready to say what had been building for a long time. Shen Yue looked at him, not with curiosity, not with expectation, but with understanding, as if she already knew what was about to be said. Because some conversations begin long before the first word is spoken.
He took a breath.
Not because he was unsure, but because he wanted to be certain that what he said would carry the weight it deserved. He told her that he was tired. Not of her, not of what they had, but of everything around it. The noise, the speculation, the constant pull of expectations that did not belong to them. He said something that changed everything. He said he did not want a life built on drama. He did not want a relationship that had to survive constant tension. He did not want to keep proving something to people who were not part of what they shared. He wanted peace. Real peace. The kind that does not need explanation. The kind that does not need validation. The kind that exists quietly and remains. Shen Yue did not respond immediately. Not because she did not have an answer, but because she understood that this was not just a statement. This was a turning point, a moment where everything could either continue the same way or change completely. She looked at him for a long moment, not searching for doubt, not looking for hesitation, but making sure that what he said was real. Because peace is easy to say, but difficult to choose. She told him something simple, that she had been feeling the same way. Not suddenly, not recently, but for a long time. She said she did not want to fight against everything anymore. Did not want to live inside a story that was constantly being rewritten by people who did not understand it. She wanted something quiet. Something steady. Something that did not depend on attention to exist. And that was when the shift happened. Not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. Because when two people choose the same thing at the same time, everything changes. They did not celebrate. They did not make it feel like a victory. Because this was not about winning. It was about letting go. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of narratives that never belonged to them. Letting go of everything that made their relationship feel heavier than it needed to be. The decision was not announced immediately. It was not turned into a moment for others to react to. It remained between them.
Quiet, certain, real. But something about them changed.
And people noticed. Not because they said anything, but because they stopped doing certain things. The way they moved became calmer. The way they responded became simpler. The way they existed around each other became more natural, as if something had been removed. Something unnecessary. Something that had been holding them back. Fans began to question it.
Speculate.
Try to understand what had changed. But there was nothing to explain. Because peace does not create noise. It reduces it. The first time they spoke about it publicly was not planned. It happened in a moment that felt too honest to avoid. Dylan Wang said it clearly. He said they chose peace. No drama. No unnecessary conflict. Just a life that felt right for them. Shen Yue did not interrupt. Did not add more than necessary. She simply nodded. Because sometimes agreement does not need words. And that moment spread quickly. Not because it was shocking in a dramatic way, but because it was unexpected. Because in a world that thrives on conflict, choosing peace feels almost unbelievable. But that is what made it powerful. Because it was not about impressing anyone. It was not about proving anything. It was about choosing a different way to live, a way that is rarely talked about, a way that is often overlooked, a way that requires more strength than most people realize. The story does not end with a dramatic twist. It does not end with a conflict. It ends with something far more meaningful, a decision, a quiet one, but a powerful one, to step away from everything that creates noise and build something that does not need it. And now the only question that remains is this. When everything around you pushes toward drama and tension, and peace requires letting go of things you thought you needed, do you hold on to what creates noise? Or do you choose what brings you calm? If this moment made you feel something real and you want to see more stories like this, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who understands that the strongest relationships are not the ones filled with drama, they are the ones strong enough to live without it. The moment they chose peace, it should have felt like everything became easier, like the noise would fade and the world would finally step back. But if you stay with this until the very end, you are going to understand why what happened after that decision between Wang and Shen Yue proved that choosing peace is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of something far more difficult and far more real. At first, nothing seemed different. The same schedules, the same routines, the same quiet understanding that had always existed between them. But beneath all of that, something had changed, not in a way that could be seen immediately, but in a way that could be felt in every moment they shared. Because peace is not something that appears instantly. It is something that must be protected, something that must be chosen again and again, even when it would be easier to fall back into everything they had just walked away from. The first challenge came quietly, not from outside voices, not from public attention, but from the small things, the moments that usually go unnoticed. A delayed message, a misunderstood tone, a silence that lasted just a little longer than expected. Before, those moments might have turned into something bigger, something that created tension, something that added to the noise. But this time, something was different. Wang paused. Instead of reacting, instead of letting the moment grow into something it did not need to be,
He chose to ask, to understand, to stay calm.
And that changed everything. Shen Yue noticed it immediately, not because it was dramatic, but because it was unfamiliar in the best way. She responded differently too, not defensively, not emotionally, but with the same intention he had chosen, to keep the peace they had promised each other. And in that small moment, something became clear. Peace is not built in grand gestures. It is built in the smallest decisions. The ones that happen when no one is watching. The ones that define everything over time. Days turned into weeks. And slowly, the world around them began to react. Not loudly, not directly, but in subtle ways. Questions, speculation, expectations that tried to pull them back into something louder.
Something more dramatic.
Because people are used to stories that create tension, that create conflict, that demand attention. But this story was different, and that made it harder for others to understand. There were moments when the pressure felt stronger, when it would have been easier to respond, to explain, to defend what they had chosen. But they did not, because peace does not need to be proven. It needs to be lived. And that is what they did. They stayed consistent, not perfect, not without moments of difficulty, but committed. And that commitment became stronger with time. The final moment came quietly, just like the decision that started everything. No announcement, no dramatic scene, just a simple realization. They were sitting together, not discussing anything important, not trying to solve anything, just existing in a way that felt natural. And that was when it became clear. Everything had changed, not because something big had happened, but because nothing needed to happen anymore. There was no tension waiting to appear, no unresolved questions, no need to prove anything, just a calm that felt steady.
Real. Complete.
Shen Yue looked at him, not searching for anything, not questioning, just present. And she said something simple. She said this is what they had been trying to find. Not perfection, not a story that impressed others, but something that felt right to them. Dylan Wang nodded, not because he needed to agree, but because he already understood. Because now he knew what peace really meant. It was not the absence of problems. It was the way they chose to face them, together, without turning them into something they did not need to be. The story does not end with a dramatic conclusion. It does not end with a moment that demands attention. It ends with something far more powerful, a quiet understanding, a steady connection, a choice that continues every day. And now the only question that remains is this. When peace requires patience, understanding, and the willingness to let go of what creates noise, do you choose what is easy, or do you choose what lasts? If this continuation made you feel something real and you want to see more stories like this, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who understands that the strongest love is not the loudest. It is the one that stays calm even when everything else is not.